Are you a thoughtful leader? Maybe you are. Maybe you think you are. Let's find out. I'm Mindy Gibbins-Klein. I'm author of The Thoughtful Leader and host of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. Thoughtful leadership is all about thought leadership that goes above and beyond. Thought leadership that is truly new and original, exciting, disruptive, maybe even groundbreaking. Because let's face it, we need to raise the bar. My guests and I are absolutely obsessed with finding truly original thought leadership, and I'm going to bring you so many exciting ideas and opportunities, things for you to think about, and chances for you to push your thinking that you'll be very glad you tuned in. So thanks so much for checking out Thoughtful Leadership and the Thoughtful Leader podcast. I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. Welcome to the show. My guest today is the amazing thoughtful leader, Mac Laubscher. You are going to love this because I've known him for quite a while and he is very thoughtful. He is a real thoughtful leader and he has a lot of interesting things to share. So no pressure, but welcome, Mac.
Hey, Mindy, thank you so much for having me on your show. And it's always a pleasure having a conversation with somebody like yourself.
Aw. Well, people will learn about you. They will read your bio. They'll read the show notes. What are the highlights from your career or what you're currently doing that you would like to emphasize to our listeners?
Wow, good question. So I've had quite a colorful career compared to most people. Started off in a hotel and catering and then moved into security only as a result of being held at gunpoint, which not many people know. And that was kind of a defining, life-changing moment. And I went into the security world to consult and try and find better solutions for people and educate people as to how they can improve things. And then fell into personal development as part of my journey. And that was Tony Robbins and various other people over time. And it was a real steep learning curve because that's where I started learning more about people. And, my first part of the journey was a good friend of mine gave me a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People that most people will know. And I was offended because I read the title and I thought, what are you trying to say? Needless to say, I didn't read the book for a few months. And then one day I needed something to read. I just felt, what's lying around? And I picked the book up and I really kicked myself because I thought I should have read this when I got it. And that was a defining moment in my life. And since then, I've gone on to effectively help people build relationships globally. That's what I love doing, is just connecting people and seeing where a conversation has become my motto over the last 20 years is you never know where a conversation may lead. So yes, I do things that have a label, like I coach people on how to use LinkedIn and how to be able to leverage that and become effective. But it's a tool. So it's more about how to build relationships, how to be effective out there. Ironically, the one big word that's come through the pandemic is, people want to be more authentic. And the scary thing is when people ask if they can be trained to be authentic. And I'm like, what are you doing? So, yeah.
Well, actually, you make a really good point. I think people have been conditioned to put on this mask, this layer, that layer. So they have forgotten how to be authentic, and especially social media. I'm not going to name names. Okay, Instagram and the TikTok and those kinds of platforms, unfortunately, in my humble opinion, encourage people to put on a persona or a mask. And then I do think if you get used to doing that for a while, then you forget how to take that off, or it's more exciting to get 150 likes for this fake self than your real self. Do you agree?
That is very well put. it's actually quite frightening because so many people, and I'm seeing this on all platforms, where you've got individuals that they look at what they think is success out there. So I use the saying, which is sanity over vanity. And most people are going for those vanity numbers. And it's amazing how, and I know, I went through a stage where I was fairly lost and I was trying to find my way around and, who works, what doesn't work. And I did a lot of research. And a lot of the time you sit there and instead of focusing on who you are and what you want to be, you focus on other people's results, what they're getting. And then it's, people fall into this copy and paste situation where they think that person is what they need to emulate because that's what success looks like, rather than being focused on what success means to them.
Well, of course, I wrote about this in The Thoughtful Leader. A lot of our listeners know how I feel about looking at other people's stuff, reading other people's posts, watching other videos, in addition to wasting time that you could be spending focusing on yourself and developing and bringing out your own thought leadership and thoughtful leadership. One could be influenced and, end up copying, pasting without even realizing. But I think the more insidious risk is where the person could lose their own confidence, thinking, wow, that person I'm looking at on whichever platform, and it could be a bot, but, oh, wow, that looks so great. They've done it. It's all been done. It's all been said. Who am I? And I think they call it compare and despair. So, it is a challenge in the modern day world, but let's go back to the idea of developing relationships, because in my model of the world, a relationship is a one-to-one experience. And you might have a lot of relationships. You might know a lot of people, have a lot of friends, but in each case, it's a one-to-one experience. And therefore, you haven't got the pressure of, being on display or broadcasting on a platform. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that, Mac.
So what I've found is relationships seem to be like a second thought on social media. It's more about how many clicks I get, how many likes I get, all the, how many impressions. And it's that whole endorphin release that people get because they feel that they're only accepted or they're only validated by the clicks. And it's, nothing could be further from the truth. It's the real relationships that you end up having as a part of the engagement process, and being authentic is such a big key. It's one of the things that I found over the last few years is when somebody really gets into the zone of what they are all about and start exploring themselves, they have so much more fun and much more uniqueness comes across. But that's where the magic and the beauty happens. It's when they try to focus on being somebody else that they're never satisfied, always disappointed. And, I look at, as an example, LinkedIn, and I look at how many LinkedIn coaches or trainers there are. And it's so easy to feel inadequate because somebody just did this amazing post with some really great, content or images, or they got to speak to a big company, or they got, and there's so many reasons why you can, and that applies to not only LinkedIn, but anything in life. But when you start focusing on just, getting into your zone of what your core purpose is and why you do what you do, it's a different conversation. Now, one of the things that I find on social media is, that fake relationship, which there's so many, people click and connect and then they pitch each other and then there's no, okay, well, you're not buying from me. We can't have a relationship. I'm off. And yesterday I had the most amazing conversation with one of my clients. Was on a group training session I was doing, and I hadn't seen him in a while. And he came in and he was like, oh, well, this LinkedIn thing, it's a bit weird. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I met somebody through you who then introduced me to somebody else. And they've just introduced me into this other client, and it's a massive national conglomerate. And he says, I would never have got that deal if I tried to sell to the first person you introduced me to. And that's where the magic happens is, don't put limitations on relationships. Just explore and see where they go.
Well, I'm a big believer in that law of random connections that our friend Thomas Power coined. It's true. It's a clever phrase and it's real. And that's how I live my life. Be open, stay open until somebody does something that you disagree with or that you really don't like. And then we implement all the listeners know what's coming. The power of the UN. Unfollow, unsubscribe, unplug if necessary, unfriend. That we have the power. I won't sing, don't worry. We have we have more power than we realize. But on the receiving end, so this is where I've been spending a lot of time. I think people need to be really discerning. We thoughtful leaders think about and are very thoughtful about how we approach relationships and how we're proactive and just our part in it. But when you're on the receiving end, it's funny because yesterday I had somebody like a post on LinkedIn, send me a message, invite me as a friend. And I thought, okay, let me check him out. And I saw he did sales funnels and I thought, oh, here we go. I have enough funnels to last me a lifetime. So he said, oh, I'm loving your posts and and I thought it'd be great to connect. So I just sent a message back saying, sure, as long as you're not going to sell to me. I thought, let me nip this in the bud. And he came back saying, no, I'm not going to sell to you, like a subtle supportive sales message. But, the minute it turns into something that's less than relationship building, I may need to cull him along with some other people. LinkedIn is funny. So I've just been thinking about the fact that, you said you went through a period where you didn't really get it and you were, looking and building and whatever scarcity. I was thinking, I want to have 100,000 LinkedIn connections because they used to allow it. And just as I was approaching 30,000, the limit changed. And I was really annoyed. And I think I forgot that, probably 25,000 of those I'm not in contact with. They're just numbers. It's racking up the numbers. And I think it's quite a good thing when there's a limit. I think Facebook limit is too low with 5,000 friends. But, of course, you can have a page. And I'll just bring in one of my other phrases, my favorite phrase. People don't engage with a page. Do you agree? And talk to us about, please, the difference between a page and a personal profile or relationship with a person.
So depending on the platform, historically a page has been almost like a bookmark as opposed to a identity. And when it comes to personal pages, people, a perfect example, if you want to think of somebody who's everybody knows the name is Richard Branson. If you go and look at Richard Branson and then you go and look at his company page, yes, because it's, Virgin will have just over, I think it's coming up to 2 million followers now. But Richard Branson has like 12 or 13 million. So 10 times the amount. And at the end of the day, people are wanting to engage with a person. Now, pages have changed a lot over the last probably 6 to 12 months because people like, or platforms like LinkedIn are trying to make them more effective to build a brand, but it's still hard work. And there are, a few people that are doing really well with company pages, and building that brand is more, again, about talking about the people in the business, not the business and not not selling. And that's what attracts people at the end of the day is how people, ironically, we remember how people make us feel. And that's how brands and companies, expand now. Because if you think of the Apple experience as an example, everybody knows how they feel when they open that, the simplicity, the packaging, and it's like Christmas all over. But and that's where, if you can focus on your client needs and how they feel, you have a much better impact than posting ads all the time, which is effectively what most people do, because only 1% to 2% of people on LinkedIn post content. But the reality is, out of that content, so many people are just, they've got a social media marketing company, put some nice, posts together. And, and this is something that's quite interesting that I keep bringing up to people is, we pay for things like Netflix, Amazon Prime. We have so that we don't have to watch ads, so we can watch the whole, box set, scroll right through. And then, when it comes to the web, we have ad blockers, so we don't see too many pop-ups and ads and all those things. Yet, when we start talking to people about our business, we start putting out stuff that we know people literally pay a fee so that they don't see these things. And then we think that this is okay to go and just spam people with ads.
Well, it's the stealth ad or the post, which is not a post, where somebody's just broadcasting and selling. I mean, I switch off mentally, not physically, because I want to see what the next post is. I'll keep scrolling. But the minute something smells a bit fishy, I'll just scroll past. And I do think a lot of people do that. You wouldn't do it. So many people say you wouldn't walk into a meeting, in-person meeting, and go, hey, I've got this new program and blah, blah. And especially when people are in conversations, they're not there to listen to you, and you're broadcasting. It is hard though, because they're not there. So this is bringing me to my question to you about the difference between building a one-to-one relationship online or using all these platforms, and we'll say kind of WhatsApp, Messenger, Zoom, not broadcast, compared to in person. Is it the same? Can it be the same?
I think to a degree it can be. So I look over the last 2 years and I've developed so many incredible international relationships with people that because we just started a conversation, see where it went. And recently I posted about some of my clients that I'd never met, but we decided to have a bit of, a get together in central London, and they came through, and it is definitely different, in person to Zoom. There is 100% a difference, but it also felt like, I already knew these people. The relationship was already there because I've been following their content. I've been coaching them. I've seen them on Zoom. I see them on WhatsApp, all over the place. So they're part of my life because we've built a relationship. But that face-to-face, all of a sudden, it's like there's that additional connection that happens as well.
There are people that you'll never meet, I'll never meet. And that's always been the case. And even well before the pandemic, I had clients in Australia. I had clients in South Africa. I subsequently went, and so I've met most of them. But Australia, I have never met any of those clients who worked with me like 15, 20 years ago. Still haven't. So I think the lines have been blurred because I feel I know them. And people who I've corresponded with over the past couple of years, when there is a get-together in person, I find myself saying, have we met in person? Because the lines are so blurred. And then I think the conclusion I came to is it doesn't matter. If I can't remember if we have actually had a hug in person or just did what you and I are doing, having a chat online for now, then who cares? Why are we making these distinctions? And I think if we just relax, because I think my opinion is coming out here loud and clear, so I may as well finish the thought. I personally don't think that we should denigrate the online or the virtual relationship to just, to say it's not as good as in person, because, there are people who are not, they're not mobile. They can't get out, or they don't have the means to go to an in-person meeting, or the budget, whatever it is, or geography. There are many reasons why they may not be able to attend. So I think it's nice and inclusive if we kind of lump it all together and say, it's great if you can meet in person, but virtual is also cool.
I think the pandemic has actually done us a massive favor in this sense, because some of the people in fact, almost all of the people that I've met, I would never have come across had it not been for the pandemic. And, you can focus on all the negatives that came out of it, but one of the big positives is that the whole digital shift has allowed me to build relationships with some people that some of them are closer than family. And I've never physically met them, but the conversations and the support throughout the pandemic, and that has been more powerful than some of the relationships I have had in real life. So, and I compare that to, if I had an hour's Zoom with somebody, but I went to a networking meeting and met 25 or 30 people, that Zoom would have been more impactful because of the one-on-one. Whereas at the network meeting, everybody's going, hey, can I get your business card? Thank you very much. This is who I am. Let's have a one-to-one. And it's like that very impersonal process, and everybody gets their 60 seconds. But building relationships like this is, I have some of my best friends that I've never met through LinkedIn. So I would never discount it.
That is so great to hear. Things have changed permanently for the better. And obviously the pandemic brought a lot of upset and a lot of grief and many other things, which we know, we acknowledge that. But one of the compensating benefits, if you want to call it, is to help people realize that the virtual can extend our relationships. So what you were talking about, like these networking meetings, I was a BNI director for many years, and the 60 seconds was only ever meant to be a starting point. The one-to-ones are the key. So we're going to come full circle, because I can't believe our time is nearly up. And we're going to talk about one-to-one again. I think it's quality, not quantity. So I wouldn't care if I just met 12 people and deepened my relationships with them, and I could stop focusing on, do I have 30,000 contacts here and there and whatever. What are your best tips, 1, 2, or 3 maximum, for someone who wants to get serious about building really quality, authentic one-to-one relationships?
So there are a few things here. There's the holistic approach, because unfortunately, what a lot of people do when it comes to social media is they want to get to the conversation. They want to start connecting, but they forget about the basics, which will allow that person, as you said, when you go and check somebody's profile out, that's a decision-making part. It takes a few seconds, but it's a decision-making process where you kind of go, okay, they messaged me or connected to me because of this. Let me look at their profile, disconnect, not interested, looks like a funnel, and then look at content, and they're just posting ads all the time. It's like, well, okay, yeah, straight away. So when it comes to relationships, make sure that your profile speaks to the person that you are wanting to connect with, and use it as a filter. You said something beautifully earlier about the fact that there's certain people that you want to unsubscribe or unfollow, and you want to be niche. You want to make sure that when people look at your profile, they go, he or she works with people like me, or, this is not for me. And that's okay to have your profile say no to some people, because it saves you a lot of time. The second thing is, one thing that you really need to remember on LinkedIn is everybody goes, as you know, for the connections or the followers, and they go for the vanity metrics. But LinkedIn actually use the artificial intelligence or the AI to look at whether you're really building a relationship with an individual. So when you click and connect, all it does is add another number, but LinkedIn will then decide, based on what happens after that moment and the follow-up, whether or not to show that person in your feed. So if you just click connect, but you don't go and visit their profile, you don't send them a DM, you don't support any of their posts within the first 72 hours, then effectively LinkedIn goes, okay, it's just a connection. We don't have to, because you've told LinkedIn, I'm not interested in developing a relationship. So therefore put that one aside, as opposed to, hold on, there's a conversation that's just happened here. Let's keep them in the feed to see if that relationship develops. So you're telling LinkedIn what to do. And if you just want to be one of those persons who just collect numbers, that's all you're going to get. You're never going to get any quality.
Oh, gosh, these are such great tips. Listeners, if you like the sound of this, please, please, please connect with Mac. Well, do an invitation. He might not accept it by the sound of this, but no, follow him, get to know him. There's much, much more where this came from. We do have to bring it to a close in about 60 seconds. So I just want to encourage people to take a look at how they're networking. If this stuff has resonated with you, ask yourself, are you doing it, or are you trying to shortcut the process? Are you really keen on building relationships, or are you just saying you are and you want to rack up the numbers? Because as Mac just said, racking up the numbers isn't necessarily going to get you the result. The algorithm will see what's happening, and you'll be working too hard, I think. Anyway, we are not working hard. We've been playing. We've been enjoying ourselves today. Who knows? Maybe I'll get him back on the show because there's so much more. Yes, please upvote the show, and especially this episode, and then we will invite him back. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with everybody today. Mac Labsher.
Thank you so much, Mindy. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Thoughtful Leader, and I hope it's inspired you to be more thoughtful as a leader in your business. Please consider subscribing and leaving a review. An important question for you. Do you want to create a culture of thought leadership in your organization? My best-selling book, The Thoughtful Leader, is available now on Amazon and many other sites in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Please visit www.mindygk.com for more great content. That's www.mindygk.com. Speak to you again soon.